How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment, listen, we're going to have to do it the right way. There's no question about that. But we don't have any, we have to get these guns off the street.
Responsible behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
Have you heard from
Senator, I'm curious though, because not one candidate who has very similar plans to what you have when it comes to guns never really seems to talk about the process of perhaps banning certain guns. Does it involve law enforcement essentially going to people's houses looking for specific banned guns? Does it involve perhaps creating a database of people who are legal gun owners? I mean, what kind of process are we talking about here?
Well, first of all, as a point of distinction, I believe I'm the only one who has said that she will take executive action. So mine is not just a plan with some plan for legislation. I'm actually prepared to take executive action to put in place rules that improve this situation.
A few years later,
when you said you have guns, no, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that. But it's choice to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and I'm in favor of assault weapons bans, universal background checks, red flag laws.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about what, yet again, is another word salad interview from Kamala Harris, okay? And I honestly can't even call it an interview as much as it really is just flat-out propaganda.
And this movement that we're in about, as I like to say, seeing in the face of a stranger a neighbor.
Yes.
Right? An extension of love thy neighbor, that you literally in the face of a stranger see a neighbor.
Yes.
And approach each other with that level of dignity and grace and kindness.
Well, that's exactly what happened with the win with Black women.
And this time we got to talk about Oprah, who hosted a town hall for Kamala Harris. We know that Oprah is openly supporting the Democrat Party, so this is not a real interview, okay? This is just as rigged and fake and scripted as the National Association of Black Journalists interview that Kamala Harris did, in which she got softball after softball after softball question. In fact, every interview that Kamala Harris has done so far has been nothing but a complete and total softball, okay? This is not really any different, right? But, you know, during this town hall, you had a bunch of Hollywood weird weirdos, progressive liberal women, and low testosterone questionable men, right? That is what this town hall was composed of. And it was supposed to be asking Kamala Harris questions in a way to make it look authentic, right? Even though, again, all of these questions were scripted, they were pre-approved, okay? The people were screened, they were probably actors, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, they basically got picked to ask Kamala Harris softball questions, and Kamala Harris just couldn't knock one out of the park, right? I mean, this is basically how her whole campaign has been. She has basically tried to word salad her way through every softball question. And at one point during this town hall, Oprah had to cut off Kamala in the middle of an extra long word salad in response to a very simple question. It took Kamala Harris about 3.5 minutes to actually answer the question. I'm going to show you guys Kamala's answer, but I have to fast forward because she's just saying so many things that have nothing to do with answering the question, up until the point where Oprah has to like stop her and say, okay, are you going to answer the question? What are you going to do to fix the border? Take a look.
When you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. This again gets to the point about what does leadership really look like? And is it about you or is it about the people? Right. Is it about running on problems or fixing problems? My work and my career has always been about saying, let's fix problems. Let's address the needs, because we know it's within our capacity to do that.
So to answer Justin's question, now that that bill has gone and hasn't passed, will you reintroduce that?
Absolutely. And when I am elected president of the United States, I will make sure that bill gets to my desk and I will sign it into law.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? Kamala Harris was so deep into her filibuster that Oprah had to remind her that you need to answer the question. The guy asked, what specific steps would you take in order to fix the border crisis, okay? And Kamala Harris did not really outline any real specific steps outside of saying that she would sign the bill that was mainly supported by Democrats that would not secure the border. It would just normalize illegal immigration. So she really doesn't have an answer. So she filibusters her answer with a bunch of Trump derangement and lies about her own record. Like, for example, her pretending as if as a state prosecutor, as a state attorney, she was on the front lines dealing with the border crisis and prosecuting criminals for crossing the border when we know she doesn't even think that should be illegal. And on top of that, it's just a lie, right? She was not really directly dealing with the border as a state attorney general, which is what she strongly implies when she talked about her experience dealing with the border.
This implied that Harris was on the front lines of the border crisis, when in reality, as a California Attorney General from 2011 to 2017, she mainly dealt with state-level criminal justice. For example, her Back on Track program aimed at reducing repeat offenses through education, not tackling border cartels. So this claim is stretching the truth a bit. News Nation is fact-checking this claim as misleading. That also implies that Harris went after gang members for cross-border smuggling. While she did prosecute gang members in the state of California, these cases were mostly local, not involving international smuggling. For example, back in 2015, her office took on the Nuestra family gang for drug trafficking within California, not across the border. News Nation is fact-checking this claim as false.
Yeah, so Kamala Harris is just lying about her own record. She was not this tough on the border prosecutor in California like she's making herself out to be. And the reason why she says this is because she knows that Democrats, liberals tend to not do very much research, right? They don't really care about the lies, right? So she feels that she can just openly lie about her own record as an attorney general because she doesn't think that anybody will look it up. But eventually, at some point, somebody needs to call her out about her lies, pretending as if she has a record that would suggest that she actually knows what she's doing when it comes to the border, when her actual record insists otherwise, right? That she has no clue, that she's actually destroying the border, okay? And she has been responsible for allowing millions of illegal immigrants into this country as border czar and vice president of the United States. But that's not the only word salad here from Kamala Harris during this town hall. She was asked the same question that she's always asked about the economy. How are you going to help lower prices, right? How are you going to help with the affordability crisis? And once again, she goes into word salad with no real answers, just finger pointing at Trump, because the truth is she has no clue how she's going to help with affordability or with bringing down prices because she's economically illiterate, right? First and foremost, I believe she has an economics degree, okay, I think from Howard University. And it's not looking like she learned very much in class, okay? Because when Kamala talks about the economy, when she talks about the issues, okay, relating to inflation, that is when she's at her worst, okay? And this poor family, okay, who's gonna ask this question, I don't think they are intelligent enough to realize that Kamala Harris is just gonna make their lives worse with her policy. So I want to react to it. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Rachel and Garrett are joining us on Zoom from Pennsylvania. And I understand your sister and brother-in-law moved in and you're hoping to save money to have a second child.
That's right. Hi, Oprah. Hi, Madam Vice President. It's nice to be with you all.
Yes.
Hi.
And so what did you want to say to the Vice President?
So, Madam Vice President, we are, like many, many young Americans, just experiencing a very high cost of living. We ended up giving up our apartment, moving in with our parents who were so gracious to take us in for over a year so that we could save money and ultimately buy a home, because that's what we thought the American dream was, to get married and buy a home and have a baby. And now here we are, and our mortgage is incredibly higher than what we thought it would be. And my sister and our brother-in-law are living with us right now so that they can hopefully one day do the same. And while it's beneficial for us because they help us pay off some of our mortgage, it's also beneficial for them because they can save on cheaper rent. But we really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been.
Wow. This woman is literally being coached to not answer questions, right? There's no doubt in my mind at this point it's just being done on purpose because they believe that the American people are stupid. She is purposely filibustering every answer that she gives to a question because she doesn't actually really want to answer the question. She doesn't want to. She doesn't have an answer. So it's just a bunch of filibuster with a whole bunch of nonsense, right? A lot of the why, okay? Why do we need to lower cost? Okay, everybody knows why we need to lower costs, okay? Everybody knows it's a problem. What we want to hear is the what, and most importantly, the how. She doesn't have the what, she doesn't have the how, okay? So she has to filibuster with the why.
And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries. So that's why I'm taking on, for example, price gouging, which is when, most companies and corporations are good, but for those bad ones, they take advantage of people, especially during a pandemic or extreme weather, and they end up jacking up prices, and there needs to be accountability and consequence for that. So,
okay, there is no price gouging, okay? Kamala wants communist-style price controls. That's what she wants, right? That's what she's actually proposing when she proposes trying to crack down on price gouging. This is stuff that is already handled by the states, okay? It's handled by the Federal Trade Commission. This is not something that Kamala Harris should be concerned about.
So I'm going to be taking on price gouging. But it's also about dealing with what we need to do around home ownership, right? So as someone mentioned during this film, look, I grew up a child of a mother who worked very hard. She raised me and my sister, and she saved up, and by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy a home. And we grew up actually for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center that was owned by the woman we called our second mother because she helped my mother raise us. And she was a small business owner, Miss Shelton. So I'll bring all this together to tell you the way I think about it is, one, when people work hard and have a dream of buying a home, we should give you the opportunity to be able to do that, which is why part of my plan is for first-time homeowners, buyers, to have a $25,000 down payment assistance to buy your first home.
Okay, she's still not answering the question because what she's saying does not really relate to these individuals at all because they've already bought their first home, right? So this won't apply to them, okay? This won't apply to them. Again, she has no real answers here. Furthermore, this $25,000 to buy a home thing, again, is going to do nothing but make the problem worse because it's going to create more inflation in the housing market, right? So she's literally giving an answer that's going to make things even worse, okay, in regards to being able to afford the American dream. But what the answer should be from the Republican perspective, this is what Trump should say, if he's asked this question, and I really hope that he answers this question like this, is that people got to understand there's a difference between wages and real wages, right? So real wages are wages adjusted for inflation. The problem with our current economy is that wages aren't keeping up with inflation. In order to deal with inflation, we have to stop government spending. We cannot continue to spend so much money, while at the same time, we need to acknowledge that prices are not going to come down in the sense that you're going to have massive deflation. Not unless there's an economic crash, right? That's the only way that you're going to see mass deflation in which prices are going to come down. And this is why politicians should be talking about purchasing power in relation to affordability. Okay, this is what we really should be discussing, right? And this is why I like Trump's policy of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. The reason why I like that is because that is a way for the government to incentivize people to work more, to earn more money, to let them keep more of their money in order to help out with their financial situation. But the government also needs to stop spending, right? We need to actually cut back on the entitlements. We need to incentivize people to actually go to work, to get jobs, okay? So we don't have to hire illegal immigrants to do these jobs, right? These are the things that we need to do in order to help increase people's purchasing power, okay? We need to get wage growth above inflation. Once we get wage growth above inflation, then you will see affordability get better for the American people. Now, in this situation right here, the real answer to their question lies in the man, right? This guy right here, he should be working all the time, right? You want to have a second kid, you got to step up and be a man, right? You need to get in there, put in some overtime, right? Yeah, you're going to have to lose some sleep, okay? You might not be able to spend as much time at the house, okay? But at the same time, your duty as a man is to go out there and to work and to provide. So again, Trump's policy of no tax on overtime could help out a guy like this, assuming that he's hourly and eligible for overtime, that is. But if he is, Trump's policy would massively help out because he could work more and she hopefully doesn't have to work as much, right? And that is kind of how things should be, right? The man should be working, okay? Working his ass off to provide for his family, not looking for government handouts, right? So that is the real answer to this question. But again, Kamala doesn't have anything, again, except handouts.
Because people just need to be able to get their foot in the door, and then you'll do the hard work. Part of my plan is what we need to do to support small businesses, because my second mother was a small business owner, and I love our small businesses and our small business owners.
Wow.
They are not only business leaders, they are community leaders. They mentor, they hire locally, and we have so many entrepreneurs in our country who have great ideas, incredible work ethic, but not necessarily access to capital, because not everybody, like my opponent, was handed $400 million on a silver plate that he filed bankruptcy 6 times on. And so part of my plan is to...
Yeah, she's been listening to Mark Cuban too much, right? I can listen to her and tell that she's been taking advice from Mark Cuban with all the startup talk and stuff like that. And I can tell she doesn't really know the language like that. She's just repeating what she's been told to say. She has nothing, right? She has absolutely nothing. This is like a 2 to 3 minute word salad where she has not answered the question. I mean, this is getting to the point where it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, the interviews are a waste of time, right? It's like, if this is what you're going to do, there's no point in doing these interviews or these town halls because you're not answering any questions.
Give startup small businesses a $50,000 tax deduction to start up their small business. Right now it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So that's part of my plan.
That's a teeny tiny business.
That's a business in
teeny tiny business.
It's a concept of a business, right?
Yes.
You know where I'm going. That's right.
Yeah, so that's all she got, right? All she got is jokes, right? She had more jokes than answers to that question, but everybody's laughing. Everybody's kiki and ha ha. Well, I mean, Kamala, it seems to me you don't even have a concept of how you're going to help lower prices or how to even talk about this issue at all, right? So I'm not sure if Kamala Harris is the one that should be talking about somebody not having a plan, right? Or just having a concept of a plan, because Kamala has no concept of what she's even talking about half the time, right? She's just reading from a script. So again, you guys saw it. This is the same thing as all her other interviews. It's like the same thing over and over again. Every single rally is the same thing over and over again. Every interview is the same thing over and over again. This woman leaves a lot to be desired, and I'm not sure how anybody can line up and vote for somebody like this with such a terrible track record. And when it comes to answering questions about that terrible track record and what she's going to do in the future and what's changed and what's made her change her mind, she's not giving you anything. She's not giving people anything at all. But I'm telling you, her policies are going to do the exact opposite of what she claims in terms of lowering prices and helping out with affordability. It's going to do the exact opposite. It's going to cause massive inflation, especially as interest rates are starting to decrease. You add on top of that all the spending that somebody like Kamala Harris wants to do, which she was a part of the caucus of Democrats that wanted to spend $7, $8, $9 trillion during the pandemic, right? Yeah, it's going to be a disaster. I'm telling you, the problem's going to get a whole lot worse under this lunatic. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.